On today's episode, we've got a couple deep dives into both Venom and A Star is Born, and Warner Brothers snatches up James Gunn, hoping that he'll help reboot the Suicide Squad franchise. Let's get started.
This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
Welcome, everyone, to Off the Break Podcast. I'm Cody. With me, as always, is Kyle and Eric.
Hello.
Hello.
We are all excited. We saw such good movies over the weekend. So good.
We all saw a really good movie, and then a movie that I really enjoyed, but for reasons probably not meant.
I know that I saw A Star is Born, and it is good. I saw Venom earlier, and I know that it's not great.
Venom is
Not the
great.
greatest.
Venom is great in its own way.
Yeah, well, should we just kick it off with that?
Yes.
Should we just kick off
Venom?
with the Venom topic?
Let's
Start
kick
with-
it off with Venom because, like I said on Friday, when we ended our podcast, I said, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I went and saw it and liked it? And sure enough, here I am on Tuesday, and I loved it
I did
over
not
the weekend.
think. I did not think that was very funny.
And the more it has sat with me, the more I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thinking back on some of the lines, and
See,
I really liked
all
it.
of that is true
I'm sorry
for
you
me.
lost Venom. That lines like that.
I'm sorry you lost Venom. Yeah.
Michelle
No, see,
Williams.
everything about the movie was entertaining and fun to watch, but again, for the wrong reasons. But at the same time, like the vibe I kept getting from the movie is like the main creative people involved hadn't seen a superhero movie in like the last 10 years. And so they're kind of thinking, back to the time of like Daredevil and Catwoman and those kind of movies. And they're like, okay, so we're supposed to have a scene like this, right? And everybody, as they were working on it, they're like, I don't know.
There's
if-
supposed to be this cliched
Well,
interaction
yeah,
here,
I got
right?
the vibe
Yeah,
that everyone,
like,
as production was going on, people were like, this isn't really how they do them anymore, is it? It's like, I don't know. Shh, let's just keep. We're getting paid.
Tom Hardy's there. Focus.
And
Get
I
back to
don't know.
work.
I loved it. I thought Tom Hardy was genuinely fantastic. I loved him. He was constantly putting these like mannerisms and just movements and vocal inflections into Eddie Brock that I had no. I couldn't describe what kind of person Eddie Brock is, but
Yeah,
that's not a bad
for
thing.
sure.
He was kind of everything at once. I thought Riz Ahmed's incredibly cliched, stereotypical mustache twirling bad guy was
for sure.
incredibly hammy and campy, and I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Jenny Slate was just, her character was pointless.
Yeah.
Whatever. Michelle
she did
Williams.
a good job, though.
Yeah.
With pointless
With
guess.
what they're given, they're
Yeah.
At
trying.
least she went
They
back and
are.
redubbed Symbiote.
Yeah.
And then Michelle Williams was, just kind of a generic love interest. But
Yeah.
yeah, the supporting characters were pretty terrible.
They were in I think they were in
But
what
I
the
like-
movie was supposed to be, and Tom Hardy just was in whatever he wanted it to be. That's what I got.
See,
out of
I
it.
got-
And I do agree with you on what you're saying about Tom Hardy. Like, I like the stuff that he was doing just proves like how great of an actor he is. But it's just so out there, like for
I know,
whatever
but
tone
if you look at
that
it,
is
I feel
all
like
over the place already.
I feel
Whatever
like-
they're trying to
I
establish.
feel like the tone wasn't all over the place. I feel like the
Wow.
tone was just this weird sort of uncertain thing from the get-go, and that's what it was throughout
That's
the whole
scary
movie.
to think of with you saying it like that. That's
I
just,
don't know. I thought there were just so many things. Yes, the script is not the best. It's not a very well-made movie.
Mhm.
But it's not quite like so bad it's good, but it's
I've heard that a lot.
sort
from
of
people.
in that realm
Mhm.
where there's things that are entertaining for different reasons.
Sure.
It's kind of hard to explain, but
And I think the majority of people are in that boat with you. Like I think they see some of the issues, but overall they enjoyed themselves.
I feel like it's a case where critics they're jumping onto the obvious technical shortcomings and things, like going down the list, like, well, the pacing was off. This character was blah 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 blah,
Yeah,
and going down the list, and like that must mean it's a bad movie. But sometimes movies can do that, and they're still entertaining. I don't know. That was how Venom was.
I just did not find it entertaining as much as you did, and I want to
just-
hear more of Cody because
Yeah.
Cody is on
But he's on
the
my side.
absolute side of good, right?
Unless
I
you're
know.
saying it's like a
pretty darn
genuine
good.
masterpiece.
Well,
I am.
oh, okay.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I did have some criticisms of it. I thought
Sure.
the opening sequence with the spaceship was like the worst visual
That was the most early
effects.
2000s thing.
I was like,
Just the
did-
concept,
yeah.
this alien virus crashing into
Right.
Earth from an asteroid
From a
or a
a
space
ship
shuttle.
that
I
we're
don't-
supposed to
yeah.
be so advanced.
I
don't
gave
know. I didn't get-
kind of gave that a pass because I was like, it's mysterious. It did come from space. Like, fine, whatever.
From the
Like,
beginning.
I
the
just thought-
visual just looked awful. But I was like, story reasons, fine. Like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't mind that story of it. I just didn't like the visual. I thought like it looked recycled. Like they were like, "Oh, let's save some money and use this special."
I think I have the
effect.
file of the space shuttle from whatever sci-fi movie from a couple
Yeah,
years ago.
from
Let's
whatever-
slap a new logo on
Yeah.
that ship and use that. So I didn't. So then I was like, "Oh no, this movie! Like Kyle's right. It's gonna be terrible." And then as I got into it, and you get introduced to Eddie Brock and the weird like. He's an investigative reporter on the streets. Dun, dun, dun. Like, I was like,
love that.
okay.
I don't know.
I was
thought that
so
great.
confused because, like, no reporter would do that. No reporter would act the way
But
he
he's
does.
got
or
That's
the-
why Eddie
attitude,
Brock is
Kyle.
Eddie Brock.
No
nobody
one
else,
in
nobody
San
else is
Francisco-
willing
no
to do
reporter
that.
in San Francisco does what
And
Eddie
no
Brock does.
reporter
Like,
goes
that's-
down and reports amongst the homeless.
I
mean,
loved, I
it was
loved
badass.
everything about it.
Like-
the more just talking about it now.
just stuff
the
like
best movie of
that
the year.
confused me so much.
So,
But anyway,
I was
you-
like, okay, that's a weird like montage. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I get it. I'm like in the vibe.
yeah.
And
Peeling
then-
out on his motorcycle,
Yeah, he's like on
going
his
through his
motorcycle.
notepad.
I'm Eddie Brock.
It's like, what are you? Like,
Investigative report. He's like
are you
reading off
supposed
his
to be like
notepad,
some,
just-
conviction-driven reporter, or just like this grizzly biker badass?
I think
That's
just a
what
little
I'm
bit
saying.
of both.
Like, there's no.
but that's
I
why
liked it.
it's
It
so
worked for
great.
him.
That's not a thing.
They're like, we don't know what Eddie Brock is, so let's just make him
And then he-
everything, and then one of them is bound to stick.
And then he was like, and then when you finally meet him, he's in bed with Michelle Williams, like Lothario. Like, oh yeah, he's like
Mhm.
a family guy. He's like ready to settle down with this woman who's obviously tough and like smart with her lawyerness. So I enjoyed all that. And then I really liked the Venom character, like of him talking and then Eddie Brock like reacting to the talking and then like going completely psycho with it.
Right. Right.
I did really like that.
I weirdly really like the special effects of the symbiote.
I did
Like,
too. I didn't think it
They were.
looked
It was
weird.
like this weird, gross mixture between CG and stop motion animation, and
I did
like
not get that.
it's
at
like
all.
if like you made that oobleck. I don't know if you ever made that like slimy stuff in elementary school,
Oh, I know what you're
where you
talking
could like
about.
throw it on the table and
Yeah.
peel it back.
Mhm.
It's like, ooh, it's just disgustingly satisfying.
It looked bad to me. I don't know.
It-
But,
where
like,
you're
It
Spikes
certainly
getting
didn't.
from.
I mean,
had
it
spikes
looked
in it.
weird, yeah. But
Mhm.
I was looking at like
Weird
the,
is fine.
the
It can look
tendrils of
weird,
it. I
but-
guess it looked a lot
When
more
they-
stop motion
when
than I
they
was
were
expecting.
alive and moving, they were really cool. But once they came out of the people and died, they looked like something out of the 40s, like alien from another planet. And
Yeah.
there it is, blobbing on
which
the
is
floor.
great. It just makes the movie even better.
It gives it a lot of character to the movie.
Well, I
Like
mean,
there
it just-
definitely is moments of CGI that work well, like or work fine. Like I would say some parts where you see all of Venom come together, like that looks fine. But
Yeah.
the stuff where like the symbiotes moving and they almost stuff the
did-
majority of, especially with that kind of stuff, was where I was just like, this does
I-
not. Look
I
good
loved-
to
Did
me.
you like Venom's head like coming out their back like a
That was a
puppet,
little weird.
and then looking at
That
them
was a
and
little
talking
because
to them?
it got the face all of a sudden when it was doing
Yeah.
that, and that didn't make sense because it doesn't have any sort of
Surprisingly,
face.
that
when
was
it's
the
just
least of my concerns.
crawling
so I
around,
didn't really
but-
think too much about it.
I just loved all of Riz Ahmed's bad guys scenes. You know,
He's a good
going
actor.
he's going
Really?
through all of the
He's
all
a
of
good
the
actor, and
volunteers.
he did all
Yeah.
he could.
Well, I mean, his character is just so bad. It's just
Exactly.
He's a bad guy, zero redeeming qualities
Ahmed,
whatsoever. You don't know anything
he
about
made it
him.
work.
He's a young billionaire,
Mhm.
and apparently he is totally okay just burning through people's lives.
Yeah.
And I love that because he's just in his evil lair as the volunteers are going through, and he's all of a sudden giving some pseudo-religious speech
Oh God!
about
Right,
Isaac's name.
that was the tipping point
And I
with
was
me
like,
with that
I was
character. I was like,
this
I'm
is
done
so
with
bad.
him. I can't.
I love
handle
it
this.
though.
Those are the worst kind of evil mastermind reasons.
Yeah,
to
it wasn't
do
like
anything.
it wasn't like they gave him a kind of half-assed backstory and you kind of understood why he was. They were like, no, he's just the bad guy. Let's just no good qualities whatsoever. He just wants this to experiment. With
I appreciate the actor doing what he could with that, and it definitely gave you satisfaction. But me, I was like, I understand why he has to do what he has to do from the actor's perspective, but this is so poorly written.
Did anybody believe though that he could punch Tom Hardy and have Tom Hardy fall on the ground? I was like, what? He's like 100 pounds. Tom Hardy's
No world would that happen.
I did laugh at that part. I was like, okay.
I just shook my head for the 80th time. Or 80th, that's a low number.
Oh, and the other part that got me was that in the scene where they're in the news tower and the guy screams, like does that old 90s like
the
scream.
Will. It's way older than that.
Oh, no, that's from some Western.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, whatever
Bonanza
that
or
was,
something.
I recognized it.
Well,
why did they use that?
I told you guys about it because they showed it in a clip on YouTube or whatever.
Are people
and I was
still
like,
using that unironically?
that better not be in the movie. And then it was in the movie, and I nearly died.
And it was perfect. It was totally.
And I told my
like
buddy,
I said, that's totally in line with this movie's bizarre tone. Of course, they would play the Willem yell in there.
It can't be. It can't be.
I loved it.
It just can't. Oh my god.
The whole movie, I think I can summarize it like this: my enjoyment came from me imagining being on the set. And like in between takes, the actors are just like, "Dude, what is going on in this scene?" Like, I don't know, man.
And meanwhile, they look over at Tom Hardy, and it's just still blitzing.
Tom Hardy's
out.
like, "Guys," he's like, "Guys, you're thinking too much. Just have fun with it."
Yeah.
I just imagine all these people coming together trying to make the most out of something they don't understand.
Oh, probably.
And I don't know. I
kind
was so
of
fun.
see that. I take it to like, I don't know if you guys have ever been like house hunting and you go into a weird house that is like got rooms off weird corridors and like step ups to bedrooms, and there's like just a lot of weird quirks and horrible like orange shag carpet and stuff, and you're like, I find this oddly charming. It's like a shit show happening all around me, but I find it oddly charming.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Venom. Like one of those weird houses that you should just demolish, but you end up really loving it for its character.
Yeah,
Venom is a charm that comes from shade.
everything about you is wrong. Everything
is.
about
that should be one of their quotes on the poster.
Yes.
everything
It's the
about it
shade
is
carpeting
flawed
of
in
the
one way or
house.
another,
Yeah.
and we accept it all
But
the same.
For some reason, you just really love it because it's
Yeah.
so flawed. It's like
Maybe
it's so
it's-
bad.
And there's
Maybe
definitely a
it-
crowd that's coming out of it. There's a very big crowd that's coming out of that having the same reactions as you guys, and I love it. I just did not get that because we should
There are many different ways.
be beyond the point
There
where
are
like
many different ways to enjoy a movie,
Yeah.
for sure,
and this is
and
definitely
that's great.
This is definitely that sort of, don't take anything seriously. Try and sit back and not even that it's a train wreck. It's a
No.
totally generic, very cuts a lot of corners in how it tells its story, but
Cuts corners.
I'm
isn't
happy-
good.
how it goes about doing that is fine.
I'm happy that it's not becoming like a divisive film per se. Like
no.
like there's actually a lot of people coming out enjoying themselves for what they're being given.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure like coming out that this would be very divisive, but it's ended up
Really?
being fine.
You
Like it's not
gotta-
being harmed at all, and I'm perfectly
you've
okay
gotta
with
have
that.
more movie and more story for it to be divisive. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta
You
take
can't,
a
there's
stand
really
on something.
nothing. It's not
That
worth
could
getting
be it,
angry
too.
about. It's just kind of like.
I just
I mean,
figured,
especially in the age where like every superhero movie is like pushing 2.5 hours. This one, I mean, yes, it cut a little bit too much,
Right.
but it's just like he gave us the bare minimum of what we need from each scene, and then it wasn't afraid to like just ignore some pretty glaring
Sure,
omissions
sure.
here and there.
Mhm.
But
Did you guys get freaked out by Lady Venom? I did at first. I'm
That-
like, wait, why is there a lady one? And I'm
I
like, oh
thought
no,
that was
that's
a little
her.
weird.
That's
that
her.
surprised me, and then it got weird when they kissed.
I thought
Yeah.
I thought
But
that
there
was
is
funny.
such thing as a she Venom in the comics, so at least like they were like, hey, let's
I
have
thought
fun
that
with
kiss
that.
was funny, but I
so-
was expecting them to do the whole like, that was the symbiote doing that, not me like right afterwards, and
Right.
not like 20 minutes later at the very end of the movie.
I
Hey,
like when
I'm
she
sorry
was
about
like-
Venom.
I liked it when she was
I can't
like
get over
that.
that line.
I know, it was great.
I can't get over that line.
Because she understood. Like, she's like, I'm
You finally
oddly...
found somebody to
Yeah.
take my place,
Right.
fill the void that I left you.
I don't know. I liked it. She understood why
Well,
he was like needed it because she
Michelle
kind of
Williams
secretly
said
needed
that with a
it,
straight
too.
face and a wig.
Yeah, That was
Enough
that was
said.
probably the moment where I was like, okay, I'm gonna love this. Is at the very beginning, it literally follows like the most prominent student film cliche, which is the main character loses his job and his girlfriend on the same day, and it's like, oh,
That's
man,
just the
now
worst.
this guy's on rock bottom.
Everyone's like, been there.
It's like, I can't believe this movie just did that, but I love it because it did. It doesn't care.
I don't get it, but I love that people are getting that satisfaction out of it, I guess.
Did you like how Venom at the end was like, we'll get her back? It's we now.
Yeah.
Like Venom fell in love with her too in a weird way. I liked that. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
earlier he's like-
I'll get her back.
Earlier he's like, oh, I like her.
Yeah.
And then at the end he's like, she doesn't know that we'll get her back. It's like, that's kind of creepy, but
Super
also
creepy.
also charming.
You're like, oh, that's weird. They
Maybe
both
it's
fell
just
in
because
love.
of the sound of your voice and the fact that you look like a beefed up alien monster, but you saying
It could
we'll
be.
get her back, you know.
Could be weird.
He
maybe.
was inside her,
He should-
so maybe.
Yes, he was.
That's
He really wants it back again. Lady Venom.
I don't know. I loved it. Best superhero movie of the year.
Oh god.
Just
Better
kidding.
than Black Panther.
Just kidding.
Eric's hot take.
It is up there though.
Okay, that's awesome.
In,
That's cool.
in terms of enjoyment that I got from the theater, it's better than Ant-Man and the Wasp,
wow.
I
And-
enjoyed it more than Ant-Man
and
and
it's
the Wasp.
on it's on the same
I had
level
more fun.
as
I guess like
I don't know. Now I don't want to get into hot takes for the sake of giving
Well,
hot takes because then I just sound contrarian.
hearing.
But I genuinely loved the experience of watching Venom.
I guess like coming out of the theater for Venom, you definitely had a way different experience that you had a lot more fun with as compared to what Ant-Man and the Wasp gave you guys. So I guess I can see where you're coming from. I don't agree, obviously, but
It was just sort of like maybe it was so enjoyable purely because it felt so outdated, and by feeling outdated, it felt different.
Like nostalgic.
Kind of,
Like-
but like I didn't know what I was being nostalgic for. It was just like
the 90s.
it's just like, oh man, remember when superhero movies used to be way more
Remember when they were
cliche
bad?
and
I
terrible?
don't even think it was just
Good
superhero. I
times.
think it was just action, sci-fi.
It
movies.
was, but they were, you know,
Yeah.
it was at the beginning, you know, starting with X-Men mainly, but then really with Spider-Man, it took studios a long time to find the balance between the inherently comic-looking costumes and all of that, and then the making the bad guys actually kind of scary instead of just clownish.
Yeah.
Like again, going back to him testing the volunteers in his lab, that totally felt like the 2002 Spider-Man movie where Norman Osborn like throws his like assistant into the computers.
It
and then
hurts because I love
sparks
that
and everything
movie, but
explodes.
understandable.
And
It's
like, this is
understandable.
way over the top.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's the evil music to cue, you know. That was exactly the vibe I got, and I loved it.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that vibe. It hurts because I do love that Spider-Man movie, but I do get it. Yeah.
Spider-Man
that
2
definitely
has
could
aged
get that
well.
vibe.
The first one has not aged very
I
well.
can agree with that.
It was not. I
Yeah.
still love it. Has not aged well.
Oh, for sure.
Well,
I can agree with that.
I'm glad we're all on the same page that Venom is fantastic.
That's not what we said.
Yeah. I think a majority voted Kyle out.
No.
And we are now right.
Nope. Can we go to a movie that we do agree
Actually,
on?
I'll agree.
That we actually agree on.
Fine.
The Venom sequel will be just as amazing.
That's not quite it.
Darn.
Ugh.
Okay.
But no, I guess Star is Born.
Yes.
Also, quality movie.
Super good. I didn't have as much fun leaving the theater after I saw that one. But
Kind
it's
of a
still-
tearjerker.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Oh,
But man, I
got
loved
some old
it.
men in my row tearing up, and I'm like, "Don't you cry, old man!"
Oh, yeah.
Sniffling over there.
That's
me.
actually very
Yeah.
sad to hear.
I know. It broke me. I have to admit.
No, definitely my theater experience. Like, no, there wasn't much of a dry eye in the room. And that means it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I really am happy that it worked out so well.
Yeah. So some spoilery things we wanted to talk about. I mean, obviously last Friday, Kyle and I had seen it, right? Or did I?
No, he saw Venom.
No, I
You saw
it.
Venom.
Yeah, I saw
it.
Venom.
So I kind of gave my take on it, why I liked it, and how it was sad and stuff. But now we get to get into the nitty gritty of it. So,
The nitty gritty of a Star is
so I'll
Born.
start with you guys. Like, what was your favorite part about Star is Born? Why do you think it's getting so much buzz?
I think it's just because it's whether or not you admit it or not. I think like everybody can get behind like a good solid love story.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, and especially when you have two characters as universally appealing, maybe, as these two. Like, Jackson Maine isn't so gruff and manly that, people are going to be put off by his, masculinity or whatever. And then Allie, I don't think she has a last name. Allie is, just this kind of relatable, kind of girl next door type character. Who doesn't really believe in herself, and just, I don't know. Maybe a lot of it comes down to the chemistry and the fact that the audience from the very beginning could totally buy that these two are hitting it off. I think a lot of that has to do with just the little kind of digs, like fake teasing they do, like the whole nose, the recurring nose thing, which Jackson's character genuinely loves. And I feel like audiences can relate to these little kind of things like that.
I thought when they first met, they were super awkward. And I'm like...
Well, he was very drunk.
But it was just weird because she also was like... would stop mid-sentence and then go to something else when they were talking in the parking lot and at the grocery store after she punches somebody. And I just thought like, oh, that's so oddly done. But then thinking about it, when you first meet somebody, you are awkward like that. It is so natural. Oh, yeah. The unnatural thing to do is like to write this like script of what do you wish you could say. And so I liked that that naturalness about it. I felt like it was genuine. I felt like their interactions were all genuine interactions. The way they looked at each other, the way they like kind of like stopped when they upset each other and then tore in.
Yeah, I couldn't, now that I think about it, it's hard to pin down why it's so big. Because I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the movie's just huge amount of buzz that a bunch of people are aware of. So it kind of has that event feel to it. But what it comes down to is I think people just like universally appealing stories with appealing characters.
Right. I think it's
really as simple as that.
I think the fact that
and the songs.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The music, the music is really good in it, and a lot of it comes from how talented Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga are. Like, not only is their chemistry so great, like you see in the trailer, it's definitely apparent in the movie. But the music also is just so well done and handled. I think anyone who wants a good story can also get behind that.
Yeah.
Because that's also part of the story as well. It's like the music, the inside outs behind Hollywood, and like that and their relationship was at the forefront, and that's what sells the movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know anything about it going in because I purposely didn't want to have high expectations. So when it was starting to get a lot of buzz, I just turned off and didn't read anything about it. I kind of wish I would have known at least what the story was a little bit, because when he hits rock bottom and then commits suicide, I saw it coming partway through, but a part of me at the end was still like, no, she's gonna send somebody and they're gonna catch it and it's gonna work out all fine. And
that moment,
so it hit me so hard when it did it.
That moment works so well because they build up this. Bradley Cooper builds up this relationship between Jackson and Allie so well that you root for them to make it work, and you root for them to still be together towards the end. But it just, not that it can't happen, but that like the story is purpose so that way like it ends that
you
tragically.
Just think like, how could he abandon her like that?
Yeah.
Because he had done so much to make her this star. And
well, I love the scene. It's able to walk that fine line between feeling not totally out of nowhere, but also like unexpected. Like when it I mean, obviously, if you have seen the other versions, like I had, that's a familiar beat. I knew that he wasn't gonna live at the end of the movie, but looking back through the movie and these little instances where he's talking to other characters, or even the fact, him being unable to turn down a bottle of beer, it tragically makes sense at the end. It's like,
you see how destructive he is.
But but despite of how destructive he is, like you still root for him because there are things that you see the good that comes out of him, especially when he's around Allie, that it makes you want him to be triumphant over his.
He's not malicious. He's not out hurting anybody.
He's really just is hurting
only
himself.
It's all directed on himself.
Right, because he puts it on himself.
You don't want a character like that. You want them to triumph over their demons.
Yeah.
And this
not
tragically
everybody
he
can.
doesn't. No, and that. So it's surprising. I went back and because I'm like, whoa, what happened? Why did this character tragically end this way? Like, I was not prepared for it at all. And I'm like, and I went with my father to the movie, and I was like, Dad, did this happen in the 76 version with Barbra Streisand? And he's like, no, he died in a wreck in that one. I'm like, why would they change it to be like, why would they make him commit suicide, not die in an accident? And then I went back and watched them all. And in the first two, the 37 and the 45 version 54, yeah, with
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. He does commit suicide, although a more poetic, peaceful way. Like, he just swims out into the ocean, never to return.
I don't think that would work today.
And it happens off camera.
Right.
And it's just tragic newspaper print that you read, so you're like, oh no. But it is not as tear-jerking as seeing him through
swaying in the garage.
As dark as it is,
dog
I
waiting
love that
outside.
scene. I think it's so. I think it hits you hard.
That scene is burned in my brain
subtle.
forever.
Exactly.
I don't think I'll ever. That will never leave me. That was so powerful because you don't see images like that normally, and I actively avoid movies with images like that because I just don't want. I'm that person. I just don't want that darkness, but. Having the dog whimper outside. And
outside the garage.
Bradley Cooper's real dog.
And
he probably thought his owner was actually dead.
I mean, could have.
And then you see like just this chest. You don't see feet, which would be cliche, and you don't see like the head, which would be grotesque.
You actually don't even notice it right away. It's just like, what is that swaying shape?
Oh, I noticed.
Kind of visible. Oh, yeah, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not obviously apparent that it's like his legs or his head.
Right.
It's just him.
I think that shot was one of many that I was blown away by for Bradley Cooper's first time directing. Like, you can tell he's worked with some of the greats like David O. Russell and Clint Eastwood, and like, just he's learned from these directors like how to make shots look incredible to look at as well as impactful, and you could clearly see that coming into A Star Is Born.
Yeah, I thought that whole sequence where he gets in the truck and then backs it out of the garage, and then from the moment he opens the door and it's just boots on the ground, and you see them struggle and him struggle to get into the garage, and you know that he's like impaired or emotionally distraught, and then you see him put his hat down, and you see the belt in his hand, and you're like, oh no, what are you doing? Turn her back around, put that hat back on your head. And then you don't see his face until he's like made the decision, right when he
pulls the garage door
that's
closed.
When
you see it it's all shadowy and obscured anyways when you see it for a second, and then just
but you see his eyes, and he's committed. He's like, I'm doing this. And then like that's the scene where you see his face, and then you never see it again after that. Yeah. That is the last scene you see.
Yeah, it's really, really sad.
Yeah.
And how good was Lady Gaga in this? Like,
I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said? But she's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's great.
Like, you can like looking into her eyes, a lot of obviously eyes are like the windows to the soul, but you can always tell really, really good acting if you look closely at their eyes. You can see them having that character's internal monologue, kind of like you can see them thinking through whatever their character actually is thinking.
Right.
And I could totally see that in her, because
like, not only did I see that what you're saying from her acting, but just from her acting through singing, if that makes sense. Like, some songs, like she had like the at the end, like when she's singing the song that Jackson wrote to her, like I felt like I didn't see Gaga, like I saw the character Allie going through the moment of having to release all this anger and this sadness, and it blew me away. Like, I thought she would do pretty good, but I didn't think she would do that good.
The song was so sad.
Yeah,
well,
really
God, all the big songs,
and especially hits like when you see it cut over to Cooper or to Jackson singing it to her.
That was like one of my favorite cuts. They're just instances in the
I did not
movie.
see it coming, and instantly
her
I was
beautiful,
like,
angelic chorus like vocals, and then she cuts to his kind of like raspy, raw.
But it was so like in the moment.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Lovely.
He was singing he was pouring his whole heart into it. But she's on a stage in front of thousands, and he's just in this little room at the piano next to his love. It's like, oh my God.
Like, she was great throughout the whole movie. Like,
I guess that is the last time you see him.
I believed her transition.
Yes, I guess that is Alive.
Yeah. which is beautiful.
But I wasn't really looking at him. I was looking at her, looking at him with tears in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's why I don't remember him really in that scene, because he's not the focus. She is.
But at the same time, he is.
Could be, yes. No, I thought a lot of the scenes were done well. I actually was really like blown away by how he used camera angles, not just in the one scene we talked about where he in the garage, but there were just other points where he's in the concert and they started out, and it really feels like a concert video at the beginning where they're live on stage, and I just found that he never really looked straight on the camera either. He's always kind of from the side or with his head down, and
he's hiding himself
through a lot of the movie, and I think that just adds a richness to this film.
Absolutely.
And maybe I'm so excited by that and feel so blown away by it because I don't feel like there has been a film in a while that's done the same thing, been as commercial with as much richness.
No, that's definitely...
I can see that.
There's definitely only a select few in any given year that has, again, it sounds kind of cliche, but the big mainstream movie that also has the artistry of like the smaller films. Because a lot of these bigger movies like Venom, you're not going to see any, artsy shots that are trying to say anything more than just show you the basic minimum things you need to see on screen. But no, A Star Is Born is full of that, and you can tell that Bradley Cooper worked and his whole team worked very hard to make it as good as they could. Yeah.
I'm going to write a little bit about, after seeing all 4 films now, I write a little bit about the things that were carried from film to film. But the biggest line, and it's the line that's in the trailer, and it's the line at the end of the movie, is I just want to take one more look at you. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
so
that movie. That line is in every single movie.
Yeah.
And
it's a powerful line.
Always uttered right before he makes the decision to, to end it. And so that was, I'm glad he pulled. There are certain pieces that I'm glad he pulled forward from all the movies. So it showed that he had actually not just seen one, but seen all of them. And really did his homework on it.
There are certain story and character beats that are applicable to every version of the story. So it only makes perfect sense that he would bring those back or update those.
And I liked how he could actually sing and play the guitar. No.
Well, yeah, you learned how.
No offense to Chris Christopherson, but my gosh, that man cannot sing the way the Bradley Cooper's character realistically makes you think that he could be a star.
No, it was so believable, and I was very surprised by how well done Bradley Cooper did in his first time directing.
Yeah.
Like, it won't be shocked at all come awards season that we see this movie being brought up.
I hope we do. I really hope we see it. I hope that if it finds commercial success, it doesn't take away from how well and genuine it is. I mean, I feel like they really exuded true emotions. My favorite scene, we talked about this before, was the scene with Sam Elliott.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The brother-to-brother
basically where he tells
conversation.
His much older brother.
Yeah.
I like that they addressed that too. He was like, he looks like my dad, but he's really my brother. And I was like, okay, good. At least you.
Yeah, I mean, that was
gonna bother me.
They don't have too many scenes together over the course of the movie, but yeah, each time they're together, you learn a little bit more about just the lifetime of tension and sibling rivalry, and
Elliot takes over the screen almost.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think he steals the scene. He steals whatever scene he's in.
Yeah,
especially those scenes we're talking about. No, he doesn't need to.
But I liked how, in that scene we're talking about, he has just picked up his little brother, Jackson, from rehab and is taking him home. And they're kind of having some stilted, awkward small talk, but then, they pull up kind of at the end, and I think Jackson realizes that he doesn't have much time to get it out, but he's vulnerable and he wants to tell his brother, as part of the program of him getting out of rehab, is he's trying to make amends, and he wants to tell his brother sorry for having the last big conversation that blew them apart. And in doing so, he admits that like he always idolized his brother. It was never his dad.
Yeah.
Which you're led to believe was the case
Yeah,
for the whole
but-
movie.
yeah.
But you're only led to believe because you get that from from Sam Elliott's character. You get it from him.
Yes,
don't-
you never. That's one of the things where you realize in hindsight, it's like, oh, we never actually heard Jackson explicitly say like, I just wanted to be my dad.
Right.
But you realize that Bobby Maine was his brother's name. That's what he's been thinking this whole time.
Yeah.
And oh man.
And then he goes and he apologizes to him and says it was never Dad's voice, it was always yours.
Yeah.
I idolized you. And then he like, okay, goodbye. And then leaves.
Like if I stay for a half a second longer, I'm gonna break down.
And
I don't want my big bro to see me cry.
Right, and then the best part I thought of the movie is when Sam Elliott turns around to back the car out
It's
of
the
the driveway.
simplest shot. It's like 3 seconds long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It's
same
just
camera
Turn,
angle
he
that
looks over his shoulder,
talking
puts his
about.
hand on the headrest of the other seat so he can back out, but you can't fake the tears welling up
Now,
in those eyes.
Turns around, red rimmed, bloodshot,
man.
tears.
I
Oh
actually
my gosh.
read about that scene, and apparently, like, that final shot of seeing his eyes red as he's backing up was not meant to be in the movie. Like, that was that was completely on coincidence because Sam Elliott was just doing the normal thing of backing a truck out.
But he stayed in character.
Yeah, while staying in character. So apparently, like, some reporter was talking to Sam Elliott about it, and Sam was saying, like, I asked him, like, if that scene was good or if we should do it again because I did that, and Bradley Cooper said, no, we got it, bro. It's all good. Like, don't worry. And, like, it's stuff like that, like, accidental stuff that
Happy little accident.
if it works out well, like, it's just great to have in a
Some of the
movie. So I thought
greatest-
that was interesting. Like, that one of the
Yeah.
best scenes was
Oh yeah.
But I
Some of the
think-
greatest moments in film history are accidents.
very true.
I feel like that also shows how humble Sam Elliott is. Like, oh yeah, I was totally feeling it in that moment. No,
Well,
he was
especially-
he's
just
just
like,
like he's probably
Especially
like,
with Cooper, who's never.
got
I
a
know I
bunch
keep
of dust in
repeating
my
that.
eyes.
yeah,
I just wanted to get
Yeah.
out of there and go home.
right. No, he was pretty humble and just was like, it was an accident, but it
There's
turned out to be a
nothing-
pretty amazing
There's
shot.
nothing more heart shattering than tough, grizzled old men struggling to hold back
Yeah,
tears.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Oh man.
That gets you, and then you're like, okay, maybe it'll all be better now. Everybody's on a better note, and then
Then he
it
kills
takes you
himself.
to that high hopeful point, and then it just crashes.
Is it
But
weird
the
that
payoff
I-
the payoff works.
Is
well.
it weird that I really liked his drunk? If that makes sense. Like he wasn't
played
he wasn't an
drunk?
angry alcoholic. He wasn't like all constantly wallowing in his own. I mean, he probably was in his head.
Yeah.
But from what you see this guy who's constantly just trying to come across as the same old guy. You know, like I'm not that drunk. It's fine. I'm still me.
Yeah.
But obviously, he can't always keep that up.
I just think that works well with our attachment to the character.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't try to romanticize alcoholism, but it also doesn't straight out demonize it. It just shows it
Yeah.
as just the tragic
Well,
thing
that's-
that it is.
That it can look so normal, but yet behind
Yeah.
it can be so
like
costly
he can
and-
be so happy. Like she says, he's like, I wasn't drunk the whole time we were together. The first time, it's like, no, but it got bad when we were together. And then looking back too, it's not like he ever is this in a raging drunken state where, you know, maybe hurts her or does something he didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Whenever he's drunk, it just makes him more incapable of hiding how sad he is.
Except for one moment, the bathtub scene between
Yeah.
her and I would say like that's the one moment where that isn't what we see, but I think that's also
Even
the
there
point.
though, like I mean, I can totally understand where he's coming from in that scene, and of course, him being drunk is gonna
Sadly,
make him
I mean,
lose that
sadly,
filter.
yeah, you see both of their sides, despite how drunk he is in that moment.
Yeah.
I believe he was drunk. Yeah,
Well, he said he had a couple.
Right.
right. So
Because
he
it was after her rehearsal, and he had been drinking at it,
Oh, right.
and then he comes back and he's like, "I'm sorry.
I think
let
he
you-"
was watching the rehearsal because I don't think he was drinking at that point, and then he's watched it and he's like, "What is she turning into? I need a drink." And then that's when he grabs the beer, just a beer. But then
That's all it took.
Yep.
Yeah.
But a lot of people with alcoholism are functioning individuals.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
would never really know until it gets so out of control.
True.
So
And I think that was the
destructive.
case with him. Like everybody knew, like, oh, he's a drunk. You know, he's
He drinks a lot.
He can put him down.
Yeah.
But, it's not just a story.
And it showed all the people that enabled him too.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as blatant as like in the Barbra Streisand version. He has like a tour manager guy that's like, here, Coke. Every time he comes up to him, he's like, here, buddy, and he puts it in his
Want
nose.
some drugs?
Yeah.
It's like so blatant. This was way more like, hey, you having a drink? And it's kind of like how people treat alcoholics. Like, they're not going to deny them.
Yeah.
They're just going to go with it because they don't want to argue with it anymore. They're as beaten down as the other person is.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you guys feel about how they incorporated the music industry in this movie? Do you think it worked? Do you think the payoff worked?
I think it does. It did a little bit.
What do you mean? Like showing the Grammys and like Saturday Night Live?
No, just like what they're trying to get behind, that like it can just change a person without you realizing it, or that you can try.
Yeah, well, I mean, the original ones are a lot more geared towards Hollywood and like acting.
Right.
And this one's obviously more music based. I think though,
this one's just like this.
it's not necessarily important that it's the music industry. I think that's just the setting that they choose to comment on. I mean, it's like connected to that beautiful quote that Jackson said originally, but then Bobby tells Allie about how music's, just the same 12 notes in any octave, and then it repeats.
Yeah.
That whole thing. So I think it's just using the music industry as a setting for, people who are trying to say what they can with what they have, with the time that they have.
Right.
But yeah, I forget.
I think it could have been any industry. I mean,
Yeah,
you could have taken actors, but any more in this day and age, you could have taken like a social media YouTube star, or you could have even taken a politician or somebody. It really,
good point.
I think for the previous films, there was only Hollywood. And then in the 70s, there was really only Hollywood or music, and you'd already done Hollywood, so now you're doing music. But today, they could have easily made this movie with a social media Instagram star.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the specific movie or music industry things, a lot of it made perfect sense. I'm sure a lot of that was directly experienced by Lady Gaga herself. I'm sure a lot of those.
She's definitely come out and said that.
So much of those things, it's almost not even at all about the music, really. It's, I forget his name. What was her manager's name in the movie?
We'll call him Trevor.
Trevor. I didn't like Trevor. But, there's...
It's Oliver and every one of the other ones.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So we'll say Oliver instead of Trevor.
We'll say Oliver instead of
But no,
Trevor.
there's people like that, and they'll take this undeniably talented individual, but then create a whole, image and tour and everything around them, and then it's, in like the blink of an eye, the actual musician has no control over themselves or what they're doing or anything.
I guess
anymore.
that stuff specifically is what I meant. But you guys did make good points when it comes to its story.
Like the scene when Jackson starts drinking again because he sees her like twerking on the SNL stage or something, singing.
Oh yeah,
Where she's not
some
even
just
really
generic
singing.
rote repetitive pop chorus thing.
Right.
The total opposite of the real music she was making originally.
Mm-hmm.
I highly doubt that she actually poured her heart and soul into that song, but she was probably, goaded into that from her manager and the record label. Like, this is what the people want to hear.
I think from the beginning ones, that was definitely a part of the story from the early versions with the Hollywood one. Not so much the 37, the earliest one, but the one with Judy Garland, because they do actually try to change her look. Like, they're like, she looks so surprised, and they try to change her face and add prosthetics to her nose and like try to change her look. And then in the 70s version with Barbra Streisand, that one, they don't change her as much. Like, I didn't feel like that was as part of the story. More of the story there was him fading away and not being replaced by her and stuff. So I like how he brought that back, because I think that is so prevalent today. It's so
definitely
manufactured, and they're just talking about that.
Well, I think the core of the movie, in a lot of ways, to me, is Jackson Maine is obviously the height of his career is behind him from the very beginning of the movie, and I think a lot of it is about he wants to make sure that when he's gone, he did everything he could to be honest and say, how he saw those 12 notes. and he wanted to make sure that the person he was gonna pass the torch to could also be honest and, you know, carry that artist tradition of saying the thing that only you can.
And he saw that with her.
Yeah, and he saw that with her, but then when he sees her start succumbing to
the corporate machine,
the industry,
yeah,
and he's like, no, you can't be the one. This isn't you. This isn't what this life is about. And he probably saw it as a failure to him on his part too, and
to protect her, to guide her, to do all those things that he
just
wanted
to keep the art honest, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah, and
this movie's deep.
In the other versions, there's a really good, I think it's the one with Judy Garland. There's a really good line where I don't think it's the manager. I think it's the head of the studio. You know, because there's a head of the studio character.
Yeah.
And he is saying like he was, you know, like worthless, and he knew it, and he knew his career was over, and he knew he was destructive and all those things, but he knew you were great, and he's like said that the one great thing that he ever did was find you and make you a star, and he didn't want to tarnish that at all, because that was the one good thing that he had going for him. The one true, honest, beautiful thing that he had was
one last redeeming thing he could
his
do before
love and
his time was up.
Yeah, his love and his care of you and your career, and he didn't. And trying to explain why he then like goes off and kills himself, but he's like, he just didn't want to be around to ruin that for you or be the reason why you gave all of that up.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of encompasses that character really well. The idea that he, through her, even though he fell in love with her, he realized that he did one last good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you exactly nailed it on his arc with her, like not
Very
just in a sense of like true love, but also in a sense of seeing like what he was trying to do in his heyday, like she can do as well.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say they had true love, because you wouldn't abandon your partner that way, and you wouldn't. I mean, suicide is a very selfish thing, so you're not thinking of the other person at all, even though you may try to justify it by being like, oh, I've tarnished her, I've embarrassed her.
Oh, yeah, it's an ugly thing for sure.
It's super ugly, and it's very, very selfish reason that, you know, that people do that for. But I think that was just in line with his character. He had always been selfish. He had always been self-centered and destructive, and that gave him his voice in the beginning, but that's what destroyed him in the end. Oh, there's so much good stuff about this movie.
Yeah, like this movie works
Real
just
characters.
about on every level.
It's amazing how in this day and age, with this mass like consumption of media, that a good movie with good solid characters and story just still really defines everything.
It's always all it takes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so great that we got that at this time of year.
Yeah,
just really
especially.
needed it.
So
I think the movie's gonna do well.
Word of mouth
I think
is
it'll
going
have
to be
legs.
incredibly strong.
Yeah, for sure. Like Lady Gaga fans, don't be worried. Your movie's gonna do fine.
Yeah, it was never gonna beat Venom on opening.
No, but at least it'll have more traction than maybe Venom.
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Venom's
it's no
pretty
Venom.
fun.
It's no Venom.
It's no Venom in its funness.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
I wonder if it would have been nominated for Best Popular Film.
Oh, that would probably just add more fuel to the flame with me with that category and that movie as well.
The Academy Award nominated Venom.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have
Academy Award winning Suicide Squad.
Yes. Speaking of which,
it was a good segue. Oh my gosh.
If we want
to
get into that topic, still we can.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot there, but
we are so excited. Yay, James Gunn has landed in DC.
I mean, you knew something like that was going to happen. The second
hoping.
Disney cuts him loose, every other studio is going to be like, take my money.
Yeah,
we were waving it in his face.
We were never worried here about Gunn not being able to get a job. Like,
I don't think anybody was.
Like, he would probably have to wait, but he would be able to find a job. Like, the stuff coming out from his tweets or whatever, like, it doesn't look good, but it's not going to tarnish his career. And it's apparent that due to Warner's hiring him for Suicide Squad 2 as the writer, correct? Like, it's just
he's hired for sure as the writer.
Yeah.
Well, may or may not end up directing.
There's talks of
I like how they said
possibly directing.
They're like, we're gonna wait till he turns in the script and then decide if he should direct it. Really, you're gonna wait for the script?
I mean, odds are they'll probably still hire him, but it makes sense. Like they say that this report comes from Deadline, and
this just sounds like the perfect like fans poetic justice.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, oh, Disney, you kicked the guy who created your buddy misfit franchise. You fired him from that. Well, we're gonna take him and put him on our misfit family, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, Warner's wanted Suicide Squad to be Guardians, so who else to hire but the guy that made Guardians? So
yep.
No, I love it.
You weren't going to get that from David Ayer or Gavin O'Connor, who was going to be attached to Suicide Squad too. But
I wonder if part of me just wonders though how James Gunn feels about it. I can't imagine he'll be like, oh
down?
yes, it's like like oh now I have to now I'm stuck making my imitators successful.
Right.
That's that's a good point. Like I don't know how he feels.
Like
about
I don't know
that.
if his heart will be in it. I doubt he'll half-ass it.
I mean,
that's
is
not
this
the kind of
be,
filmmaker he is.
I mean, is this going to be a case with Joss Whedon where it's kind of like, oh, I'm gonna make Justice League kind of like how I did Avengers, but that didn't quite work out so well. Like, is this gonna happen with Gunn? I don't think so.
I hated
like,
Suicide Squad 1 so much.
That's
that
very
I
fair.
never ever was planning on seeing the second one.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to have to see the second one.
Right.
And so I'm stuck where I'm like, ugh, Suicide Squad. But then, it's James
a smart
Gunn.
hire.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Like, it really is.
It's
they might
the
get
ultimate
some backlash,
like middle finger to
Disney.
And I'm sure James Gunn gets some sort of pleasure from that. Just like,
could be.
Take that, guys.
Could be.
But
I don't think James Gunn, he's, for the most part, has been a pretty forthright, honest individual.
I'm sure he's totally cordial
media.
about it. Like,
and
no bad blood.
I don't think that he would have taken something if his heart wasn't in it. I think he
that's
found
what I
a way to find the material interesting.
Ever since Suicide Squad was first announced, people were comparing it to Guardians.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, a ragtag group of misfits come together, and then there's pop music that plays.
Right. And then they use the aesthetic of the bright colors and the neon. And
oh, man.
I think a lot of that...
They tried, but Suicide Squad was the ugliest looking movie.
Yeah, there was definitely studio interference going to all of this. Like, David Ayer had a vision for it, and then Warner's was like, no, we need to be more like this, and I think Warner's prevailed in that.
Yeah, there's like, no. If it doesn't look and sound like Guardians of the Galaxy, then it's not good enough.
It sounds like that they're gonna let Gunn take full reins on this,
sure,
because they now have the guy that they wanted in the first place to make
they're
what
probably like, okay,
Guardians was.
We actually have him now. Don't screw this up.
Yeah, exactly.
Just let him do his thing.
Exactly. So I feel like this makes a lot more sense for the direction that they want to go in and for what they intended for in the first place.
I could be really okay if James Gunn just fired everybody but Margot Robbie and it's like, we're gonna start from scratch.
Yeah. I didn't just mind, new characters.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the cast as much. Like I thought there was some pretty good hires, and I thought they did well for what they were given with the characters. But I think the scale of its story needed to be a lot smaller.
Yeah,
because those characters just work a lot better in a smaller scale.
I just think there's too many characters too, and they were all
true.
Ugly.
Like you can probably knock out a few of them.
They had the color palette of mud.
They did.
Oh,
the whole movie did. The characters did.
They had the color palette of mud in a neon background.
At nighttime all the time.
At nighttime somehow. Yeah, it was a mess all over the place for sure, but...
What I'm saying is no matter what James Gunn turns out, it's going to be better than the first one, so...
yeah, it's a very low ceiling? Am I saying that right?
Low bar.
Low bar, yes, and so the ceiling will be high for Gunn. Ha, nailed it. Got it.
Yes.
Yep, that's what I meant. I know words.
Yeah, no, I'm just super excited. This just adds to my feeling that going forward, DC is going to continuously be the more, if not better, but yeah, innovative, interesting, trying different things. And coinciding with the ending of the peak of Marvel, which I still stand by, I think
dun dun dun.
DC's in for a big new
I keep saying
phase.
that, but every time I see that Captain Marvel trailer, I'm like, oh, I love her. I didn't think I would, but I love like this tough little girl that turns into be this tough woman who like reconnects with the earth. I'm like, yeah.
Maybe
she puts the her in hero.
I never went back and rewatched the
it.
trailer, but I'm glad you're excited for it.
You didn't get it on Venom?
I didn't see it. No, maybe I got there late. Well, I guess I got there right as like the feature presentation animation is playing.
Oh.
So I probably...
You missed it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of excited for that. Am I excited for Avengers 4? No, not at all. Like,
I'm excited.
Really don't
I'm
wanna see
excited
that.
for that.
Yeah.
Saying that you're not is not true. Maybe
Once
you're not now.
Once you see
No.
that first
But-
trailer, you're gonna be like, I'm all in.
No, I don't want to see Captain America die. So.
You
Well,
said the
he's all
same thing
done.
for
Did you
Avengers
read
3,
his
I'm
Did
pretty
you read his
sure.
thank you and farewell address
No.
when he wrapped up filming on the last Avengers movie?
That's
No.
true. He did tweet
When
that.
he formally announced that, he'll
Yep.
always remember playing Captain America.
Nope.
He's so
No.
dead.
Like that tweet never
He
existed.
is so dead.
No, and he survived the third one, so I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm
Maybe
good
Chris-
with them all just dying
Maybe Chris
and no
Evans
more
will get a
movies
role.
after this.
Maybe he'll get a role in Suicide Squad 2 now.
Yeah.
Avengers 4 could just be Captain Marvel kicking Thanos' butt, and I would be fine with that movie. And just everybody else quietly is like on the sidelines.
As long
that
as Thanos
survived.
still comes out on top, I'll be happy.
It
By-
took me a second to realize what you were
I
By
am-
saying. I was
Thanos coming
just
out on
like,
top, do you
whoa.
mean like he killed some of the characters, so that's probably okay.
He kills everybody.
I like how we got onto a Marvel tangent about Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot with DC.
Yeah, poor DC. It's
Yeah.
like the Pepsi.
Even-
Like, is Coke okay?
Yeah.
Or is Pepsi okay?
Yeah.
That's kind of as of right now. But
Right.
like I've been saying, I think it's gonna change.
No, I can see that happening.
I don't think it'll necessarily flip. I don't think it'll be like Marvel is like
No.
the joke and DC is
Right.
like the thing. I
But
just think
they'll at
DC
least
will
be
be its
more-
own reputable franchise.
a little more neck and neck when it comes to the credibility.
Yeah, I feel like people won't automatically assume that a superhero movie is going to be a little bit worse because
Yeah,
it's a
'cause
DC movie.
Aquaman's gonna turn it around.
Yeah.
Aquaman.
Man,
Yes.
that does look good.
It does
Yeah,
look
I
so good.
I agree with Eric on that front. Like I could see the
It just
direction
took
going for
DC a really long time to get their business model figured out. I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean,
But
it
now
makes
that they
sense.
have, cool.
It made sense why they went with that model in the first place years ago.
I
But
mean,
now
I
that they're
guess
showing like
you
they
can't
just
blame
can't.
them, but it didn't
Yeah.
really make a lot of sense to me.
Well, despite that, like it makes sense now. Like they're learning from their mistakes and they're deciding to go in a different route with it.
Yeah,
and,
they realize they can't blatantly copy Marvel.
yeah. Honestly, I'm fine with the route they're going in. Like, just give me some good content.
And now they have a kind of a cult status for the beginning of the DC where they only made trash movies, except for
That's
Wonder
true.
Woman.
Yeah.
It kind of just adds to their narrative. It's like, remember when every DC movie was terrible?
Like looking back on it, people may still hate some of their movies, but at least they'll be like, man, those were the times. Like those were just some times to be alive.
Remember how excited we were for Batman v Superman?
Oh,
And then it came
I know.
out.
I know. I still have those memories.
I was never excited for that. I'm not. I hate to
looks
say
so
this. I'm not a
cool.
huge Batman fan. I don't
I
care
don't like
for Batman as
I think he has the
much.
coolest villains.
Oh, for sure.
He has
but
maybe
no question.
interesting villains, but I find him like dark and brooding. I can only take so
That's
much
not.
of that.
That's not your alley.
No, I think that's why I like Captain
I
America.
mean, his parents
'cause
were
he's
murdered
like-
in front of him when he was a
Mhm.
kid. But
Yeah,
yeah,
see,
he's
it just-
kind of whiny.
He's so whiny. Grow out of it.
Get
How many
over it.
people do you have to kill? Bad guys you have to kill and put away in jail for you not to like.
Batman doesn't
move?
kill.
That's true. How many bad guys
Zack
do you
Snyder
have to
says otherwise.
beat up?
Zack Snyder just loves death.
Yeah.
Like he
You-
really
At
does.
some point, you can bash your way through your emotions and literally break that emotional wall open.
Yeah.
Find somebody to love. Damn it.
He's tried and
Come
it's always
on, man.
failed.
Yeah.
Get it together, Batman.
I kind of do
Batman.
hope Batman comes into Suicide Squad 2 somehow.
The best Batman has been Lego Batman.
Lego Batman is a genuinely great Batman
Yeah.
movie.
That's what I think it's
He-
great. I think it's a great spoof movie.
He finds
Like honestly.
his family at the end. I love it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
That's the only Batman I've ever really liked.
Oh.
I'll
Well,
give
we
you
haven't
that.
seen the biggest Batman movie of all time. That will
Ooh.
always be the biggest Batman movie of all time.
The Godfather.
What?
Yes. The Godfather of Batman movies.
Everyone listening is so confused. They're just like, what?
I just don't understand how you just don't see The Dark Knight.
Ooh, it's finally out there.
I mean, it's just one of those movies. It's like the biggest. In many ways, you could say it was like the biggest movie of the 2000s.
I want to watch movies when I want to watch them. I have no desire to, and now I feel like that movie and The Godfather. I gotta watch it so everybody shuts up about me not watching it.
It doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. Like, just watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just a lot of famous scenes in that.
I watched 3 Star is Borns over the weekend.
That is very impressive.
How do you do that?
That is very impressive.
I tell you, when
like
I
the
want to
same
watch
story
something, I'll
over
watch
and
it.
over.
What does it take to make you want to watch something?
It's just
And
intriguing story. Like, I wanted more of that story. I wanted different versions of that story. I just needed more for it.
But all of them have the same bittersweet, well, not bittersweet, but bitter, sad endings.
Tragic.
Yeah.
So that's very surprising that you went through that 4 times.
Well,
For somebody
in
who doesn't
one
like that
weekend.
darkness.
the first 3
know.
times it happens off camera.
I honestly have to give you,
Except
I'm giving you a slow clap because that's props. Like, that's pretty impressive.
as bad as Bradley Cooper's body swinging in the window, Barbara Streisand goes to the crash site after Chris Christopherson's character is crashed, and
Yeah.
she pulls off the drape off the body and cradles his head and tries to wipe the blood off of his face. And she's,
Ew.
it's just so, I was like, "Ugh, I don't even think they would let you touch him." Like, I was just so confused why that was happening on
Ew,
stage.
that's gross. Put it down.
Yeah, just this guy next
No,
to
I
her.
felt
What are you
terrible
doing?
because if I was able to touch the body of a crash site, then I probably would be doing the same thing. So I totally understood what she was doing. But but part of me was like, how are they allowing this? I'm like, oh, it's the 70s. They allow a lot of stuff to happen.
True.
They probably didn't have seatbelts in the car. That's probably why this
There
is
was no
happening.
seatbelts in the ambulance.
No.
The sirens didn't work.
No, if it's a good story and I'm like, for some reason it like clicks with me, I'll watch all versions.
Well, The Dark Knight is a good story.
It's a pretty good story.
And hopefully Suicide Squad 2 will have a good story.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Venom did not have a good
What's the
story.
one? Is
did
it
not.
The Dark Knight Returns? I have seen that one.
The animated one? Dark Knight Rises.
Rises.
Is the third one with Bane.
Is that the third one with Bane? I have
Yeah.
seen that one. Because, you know why? Because Bane was a character that I had to see. I was like, I want to see this guy.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah. It was Tom Hardy. I liked his weird
That's-
voice.
yeah, you don't... Dark Knight Rises doesn't really connect to the Dark Knight at all that much. It's more of like a sequel to Batman Begins, I would say.
I could see that.
I mean, there's the whole Harvey Dent's letter, and Bane reveals that Harvey Dent was a bad guy in the end. But
Oh,
other-
right.
other
Yeah,
than
I
that,
forgot about that part.
Like, they never reference the Joker or
Mm-hmm.
any of that, except for the Joker killings at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that part.
It's like when the
It's a
Warner
long
Brothers
movie.
logo comes up. Yeah,
I
it
just
is a very
liked-
long movie.
I did enjoy in that story how Bane like got connected and to this little girl character who then
Yeah.
grows to be the
Talia.
daughter of whatever.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul. I can't
And
remember
that's
which
why,
one they
and
say.
so she's driven, and you understand her motivation, but you never quite understood Bane. So I like how they gave him some of that motivation. Like, he's just doing it because he loved her, and he wanted to protect her and do what she wanted.
Right, right.
So I did like all that. I have seen one Christopher Nolan Batman movie.
The one
I
that most
hated
people would say is
Catwoman.
the worst one. But
I remember coming out of the theater for that, and I was like, I wonder if I liked it more than the Dark Knight. Like, I actually had those thoughts in my head, and then a couple of weeks later, I was like, oh wait, no, Dark Knight's better.
Yeah.
But I did have those thoughts coming out.
I did not like him ending up with Selena Kyle, Catwoman.
I will
at the
agree with
end.
that.
I thought that was so dumb.
yeah, I
will
wanted him to
agree with
just
that.
die.
I mean, happy
Yeah.
ending, yeah, but
I could have been fine with him
Yeah.
just dying.
I'm kind of, I guess
The hero
Batman died.
sacrifice.
Bruce Wayne didn't necessarily die, but Batman died.
yeah, but Bruce.
But
Wayne
I was
lost
like,
all
come
of his
on,
money.
just die.
He lost all of
Just
his
die.
money.
I remember
He
the trailer.
just-
It's like,
no.
you've given the city everything. And he's like, not everything. Not yet. And I was like, oh, he's talking about his life. But he never actually gives his life. Batman's a fraud.
it's a fraud. No, every hero would give up their life.
If you're not, then you're no hero.
Nope. Nope.
Well,
We learned that in Star Trek. Too.
Many times.
Yeah. The best captains are the ones that are not afraid of death. They can't cheat the system.
words of
Cool.
wisdom.
I love Star Trek.
I love that ending. I love Star Trek.
Yeah.
I hope they
Well,
make another one of those movies, not with.
Well, why don't you want Quentin Tarantino to make it?
Because he makes movies I don't like, and I don't
Have you
want him
seen
ruining-
them?
We've talked about this.
Have you seen
I've
them?
seen Kill Bill. I did not like that.
Kill Bill's
Yeah.
great.
It is for
No.
a particular crowd. Like, I understand that, but Quentin Tarantino is not gonna. Well, actually,
And I
then
saw
again,
Pulp
they did
Fiction.
announce that it was gonna. Oh, maybe you're
He's
right.
a huge Trekkie, though. So
Yeah, I saw Pulp Fiction because I feel like that's one of those films you have to see. I didn't really
Yeah.
enjoy it, but
Yeah.
it's a rite of passage in my family.
Yeah, you might be. Oh, yeah. I don't know now. I don't know what to believe anymore.
Me either. Other than Venom is the best movie of the year.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
And on that note,
yeah, you have to have the last word. Okay, that's cool. That's fine.
So
I'll take it.
early shows this week that we can expect
we
for
got
our
First
Friday
Man,
podcast
Bad Times at the El Royale,
and Goosebumps.
Goosebumps 2.
Which may have Jack Black. Maybe.
I
May
think
or may
he's
not.
in one teeny tiny little flash of a scene
Oh,
somewhere,
God.
like after credits or something.
Awesome. Okay.
I don't think he's not actually in
That
the
really
movie at
bums
all.
me out.
I've not seen the first Goosebumps, so
It's weirdly
maybe
good.
I should watch it.
I
Find
would
out
say
what the
so.
story is.
I think it's on Netflix. Might
Those
be.
books were scary.
Some of them.
The
I will
covers.
go
I never
down.
read them. I was too scared by them to actually read them. I would just look at the covers at the old like book exchange. I was
Those
like, oh my God,
covers.
these are the scariest
Those
things I've
covers
ever
were
seen.
very good. Yeah. You can say they give you goosebumps.
They
Oh.
did, but I couldn't look away. I was like, "What are these scary things?"
Yeah.
And then my cousins had like the VHS tapes of the Goosebumps
the
show,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, this looks like the most gruesome and terrifying thing I've ever seen." I can't
With all
even
of
look at
its-
the back of the
With
case.
all of its 90s cheese.
Did you ever see Tales from the Crypt?
No, I know what it is, but I never. I didn't like
Ugh.
any sort of scary stuff when I was little.
That
Yeah.
intro was scary. I don't know. I don't know why I remember that. I don't like horror films, but I remember watching Tales from the Crypt, and I don't like that. That's probably why I don't like horror films now. I've been scarred.
I really the Goosebumps movie is not scary at all. Like
It's traumatizing.
Yes, exactly. It's traumatizing.
Oh.
No, it's not. It's not.
I better
scary.
go see First Man then.
Yeah.
Save myself. Be less scary.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back on Friday. Hope you guys enjoyed our in-depth conversation on Star is Born. We really enjoyed the movie. So
Venom.
Yes, very good.
there will be so many more discussions probably on it in the future.
Yes.
And on Venom, because we
Venom.
can't forget Venom.
Yeah.
Best
Try and go
movie.
see Venom too. See it for yourself. Like, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
go watch it.
It's
Enjoy
Enjoy
yourself
it.
if you
Have
can.
fun.
it's a bizarre experience.
Yeah, go
It's a
see
flip
any
of a
one of these
coin.
releases.
See
Take
you guys
care.
later.
Bye.